In the last video, we talked about how to multiply decimals by whole numbers using the traditional method. In this video, we're going to talk about how to multiply decimals by decimals using the traditional method. Now remember, the answer is going to look a little bit funny because as we talked about when we were multiplying using the hundreds grid, when you multiply a decimal by another decimal, you're going to get a smaller decimal. So even though your answer looks funny, double check your work and it's probably okay. Let's go ahead and start with this first one. We've got 1 6/10 times 7/10. Now remember, when you're adding and subtracting decimals, you always stack the decimals on the magical decimal line. I'm not adding or subtracting, so I don't need to worry about stacking my decimals. The only reason they're stacked up here is because that's just how the numbers worked out. I have up until the tenths in both of these decimals. Now later on, I'm going to go into the hundredths place so the decimals won't be stacked as evenly. Let's go ahead and multiply. 7 times 6 is 42. 7 times 1 is 7. 8, 9, 10, 11. Now it's time to swoop. So we're going to swoop both decimals. We're going to start with this top one. We're going to swoop out 1. Now we're going to swoop this one out 1. So 1, 2. Drop it down. 1, 2. So the answer to 1 6/10 times 7/10 is 1 12/100. Remember, it's just like when we were coloring it out on our hundreds grid. A decimal times a decimal gets you a smaller decimal. Let's do the next one together. 1 23/100 times 6/10. So as you can see, we are in the hundredths place times 6/10. The decimals are not stacked because they do not need to be stacked when we multiply by decimals. 6 times 3 is 18. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So I know some of you are going to be like, but Ms. Wilson, there's a 0 here. Shouldn't we multiply that? We know that 0 times anything is 0. So if I put, 0 times 3 is 0, 0 times 2 is 0, 0 times 1 is 0, it's not going to change my answer any. So if there's a 0 there, I don't bother multiplying it by it. I don't bother multiplying it if it's in the bottom. Now let's add up our numbers. Ooh, that's an 8. And let's swoop that decimal. 1, 2, 3. Let's count that again. We're swooping it all the way out. 1, 2, 3. Drop it down. 1, 2, 3. So as you can see, the answer to 1 23/100 times 6/10 is 0 738 thousandths. Let's do one more together before you get some practice in. 12 45/100 times 1 23/100. Now this is a 4x3 multiplication problem. These might take you a little bit while to complete before you even get to the decimal point. But that's okay. That's what we're going to work on today. 3 times 5 is 15. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1 is 13. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 1 times 3 is 3. Now, just like if you were regularly multiplying, we're going to add our 0 as our placeholder. If you were regularly multiplying, that's what you would do as well. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. Again, we have a whole nother number there, so we're going to add 2 zeros. Remember how to multiply. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. Let's add it all up. 9 and 7 is 16. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 4 and 4 is 8. Plus 2 is 10. Plus 3 is 13. 2 and 2 is 4. Plus 1 is 5. And drop our 1 down. Now let's go up and count our decimal point places. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's count that again to make sure we got the right answer. 1, 2, 3, 4. Drop it down. 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is. Let's bring it over. So the answer to 12 45/100 times 1 23/100 is 15 3135. Those are the 3 we're going to go over. You've got a quiz coming up, and then you're going to come do some workbook pages and meet with me. Make sure to rewatch the video if you need to, and as always, come ask me questions if you have any.